Forever and always, I'm always here. Hi, it's me, Tom, and I want to give a very warm welcome to everybody returning for Forever and Always. And can you believe it? We are actually on episode 6. And I certainly can believe it. In fact, I'd hope to be into the dozens or, tens and 50s of this podcast by this point. But as you know from the show and just in general, that life happens. And that's definitely something we have to be prepared for and we have to be ready for. And through Baywatch and through Baywatch nights, I think it's a lot easier to, ride the waves that life gives us. And, so we just take it in stride and, again, we're going to keep coming together and we're going to keep enjoying this. And, I've really just been having a blast so far, and it's been great. Again, having everyone come together and really just dig in. And speaking of digging in, we are going to cover the pilot episode today, Panic at the Pier. And, as time has gone on, I've seen a lot of panic, not at the pier, but, around here in the community. Said, Tom, we really need to get this information from the pilot. We really need to glean it. And I hear you definitely loud and clear, much like a siren from the beach patrol. I hear what you're saying. And, I'm happy to say that we are actually going to get to that today. Pardon me. Before we do, though, there is a little bit of housekeeping we have to get to. I know right away, people are going to be a little disoriented and discombobulated if you're watching on YouTube, and they're going to say, whoa, Tom, what is that on your head? And, I would have the same question. But if you're not watching on YouTube, if you're on Spotify and Rumble and these other things, you can see that I'm wearing this really, really vibrant red hat. And what you may not be able to see is that right across the top, it says lifeguard. And, I was able to pick this up on Sunday as since the, now debunked terrorist attack. It wasn't a terrorist attack, just an accident. And the whole, fumes fiasco. Our pastor has gone, a preacher, as you would say, has gone on a hiatus of sorts. The clergy and, I don't know if it's the congregation, I should say. I'm sorry. It's very, a tender subject. The congregation and myself, and we are all in the dark on this. We don't know how long it's going to be. You could say that we're in the Baywatch night about this. That's probably more appropriate. So we don't know how long necessarily this will last. But not to get into the, the minutia of that. This isn't a religious podcast. This is a, as we all know, a Baywatch podcast. But given that, on Sunday, where my day is normally filled, we get up very early in the morning and we get up to the church and set up for breakfast, and then the early service, obviously, and then the brunchin, and then obviously that's followed by the brunchin, and you have your midday service, and then your afternoon meal, and then obviously, at the end of the day, the evening service. So needless to say, there was no, as there were no services, there was no breakfast, there was no brunchin, there was no luncheon, and so forth. So that really gave me a lot of time to focus some of my energy on the podcast. And excuse me. And so on Sunday, I went down to the town square. And there's a flea market set up there on Sundays, in which I'm, rarely ever able to get down and peruse around. But I was able to on Sunday, and as I was walking through, I came across this old dusty table, and out of the corner of my eye, I spotted something just popping vibrant red, and I looked over and I saw this hat, and I immediately saw lifeguard right on the top. And I said, whoa, 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 Tom, you may want to get this, and I was like, oh boy, I don't know. I'm only, how much is this going to cost, etc. And, obviously from my first thought, is like, this is just a display piece to try to get people over to the booth or stall or whatever you want to call it. And certainly it wouldn't be for sale. A piece like this would not be for sale. And, I did approach the man, and, he definitely drove a hard bargain. And while this is, again, not a financial podcast, so I won't get into the specifics of the pricing, it did cost me the equivalent of, I would say, 8 months of my allowance. So definitely a hefty investment, but I think one that will definitely pay off. And I was a little bit hesitant on the last episode, as many of you know, I wore, not my typical sweater. I wore more of a, in my mind at the time, I thought was a more beach appropriate, shirt, a nice button up shirt. And on the, in the comments section, I did receive a message, which I do think was coming from the right place, from a man, I think it's a man named Clay. Let me see here. Clay ZW. What is that? A B D 7318Z. So we'll just go with Clay. And Clay said, I'm paraphrasing here, so forgive me, Clay, if I get any of this wrong. He says, Tom, while I did like the shirt, and I think it's a nice shirt, that's probably something that's more appropriate for a nightclub. And I did find it very distracting and very hard to focus on the, the lessons from Baywatch that you're teaching. And, please maybe just go back to the sweater. And it is in essence what he was trying to say. And, that did really, I had to go sit outside for an hour or so and really think about what he was saying, because it really hit me hard. With good intentions, I thought that, I was really adding to the podcast. And, after a while, I realized that Clay, you're right, Clay. And I want to send a big apology out to all the anchors. And I, in retrospect and going back and watching the video, I think Clay is absolutely right. The shirt was very, very distracting. Excuse me. It's getting me choked up, as you can see. The shirt was actually very distracting. And, I could tell even in my own cadence and my own body language that, in my, hubris, and my joy to have found this shirt, that I was really not focusing on what we're supposed to be focusing on, which is the lessons and the values and the, overall wisdom of Baywatch and Mitch and the rest of the gang. So Clay, again, thank you very much. And sometimes while criticism is tough to hear, I think it's absolutely necessary. So the shirt is hanging in my closet, and maybe I'll pull it out when we hit episode 500 or 1000 maybe, and not to wear, of course, but just to display and say, look, look how far we've come. Pardon me. And now, so that is the story of this hat, and I have not taken it off since Sunday. I am absolutely in love. And I've gotten a lot of compliments as I've gone, again to Walmart and places like this, and they say, "Hey, look at the lifeguard." And is that hey, is that Tom? He's the guy that has that that Baywatch podcast. And people, such things like that, or hey, I'm drowning. So it's really been grand, and I hope everyone takes out of this as much as I am, because I really think it's dynamite, and I think something definitely everyone can enjoy. So, I want to I think that's enough with the housekeeping, kind of that peek behind the curtain. I think it's time to get back into Panic at the Pier. And I believe where we left off, if my memory serves me correctly, we were right at the end of this, very pitched race in the ocean, where Mitch and Hobie, and a third person. Obviously, Mitch was victorious despite the baggage of Hobie, and Mitch is playfully, I would even go so far as to say a little bit of flirting with this third character. And, as I've been researching this, I thought, I read some comments surrounding the pilot, and a lot of people were calling this third person. For the life of me, I cannot remember her name. And this time I'll be sure to put it in the description of the podcast and the video. But some people describe her as a breath of fresh air. And, well, I wouldn't necessarily take it that far. But she is a nice character, and it appears, without trying to spoil much for some of you newbies, that she will be of interest to Mitch as the show develops. So, that being said, I think that's where we left off. And there's some, directly after this, there's some introduction to some minor characters, Billy Warlock and, a few others here and there. But that's mostly just kind of setting the stage, and I implore you to do some of your own research in that regard. We only have so much time in a day to get these things covered. So I'll obviously be doing some, some character, some specific character focused episodes, but now is definitely not the time for that. So as we, finish the hoopla of the race and whatnot, we are cut to the lifeguard stand, a big headquarters, lifeguard stand, where Mitch and Hobie, maybe a little Freudian slip there, are laughing and talking, but then the conversation quickly becomes serious, and Hobie is very upset that he has to go with his mother, and it appears for an extended period of time, as he is going to summer school, which, quite frankly, is not surprising. I won't dwell on that too much. And so there's a, kind of a negotiation phase. Apparently Hobie wants to become a lifeguard like Mitch, and Mitch says, no, Hobie, you got to do your studies. And I think it's dynamite for Mitch that Hobie is going to summer camp. And I remember thinking this at the time. It's wonderful. Mitch Buchanan needs to focus on the Bay. He doesn't need to be focused on this kid, who needs remedial classes in summer school. So there's after some negotiation, it appears they come to an understanding that if Hobie does well in his classes, which is unlikely, that after 2 weeks he can come back and again begin, some kind of junior lifeguard school. And as they're having this conversation, we cut to the parking lot of the lifeguard station stand, however you want to call it. And, we see a large brown, drab, pretty ugly station wagon pulling in, which we are to assume is Mitch's ex-wife and Hobie's mother. And I remember when I was watching this as many, many years ago, as soon as I saw this car, I said, well, hell, there's no way, heck, there's no way this marriage was ever going to last. You see this station wagon, and you see, Mitch is never going to be caught dead in a station wagon like this. He's more of a, 4x4 Jeep, adventurous kind of thing. And this is a very pedestrian, not pedestrian, but a very suburban type vehicle for hauling around a, Hobie or, somebody like that. So right away, I thought I can kind of understand why these two didn't make it, so... and so, the car eventually pulls in, and we're cutting back, to the lifeguard stand. Pardon me again. That is delicious coffee. We're cutting back to the lifeguard stand, and, Hobie's gathering his belongings, and as they are about to exit, they're exchanging some pleasantries as a father and son would do, and they do this really dynamite, I don't even know how to describe it. It's a handshake / clap, and they go around and underneath, and a couple of different claps. And every time I see this, I'm enthralled, and I say, wow, that is exceptional. Only a Mitch would be able to come up with something like this. And, while I've practiced many, many times, it's a maneuver that's very difficult to pull off by yourself. So when you're doing the handshaking and the clapping, it really doesn't translate for a solo person. And it's, again, not something you want to just approach somebody in public with, because they'll, if they're not a Baywatch fan, which I know is unlikely, but if they aren't, they're really not going to know what you're trying to do. And it can cause for some, let's just say, maybe some contentious situations. So I do not recommend trying this hand clap in public unless you are interacting with a known bayhead or an anchor even. An anchor, obviously, we're going to know. But I'm going to keep on practicing in the event that we do have a meetup, or, I run into one of you in, the general Decatur area, which I think is, I think that would be fantastic. But, so at that point, Hobie is leaving. He's on his way out, and I think the audience definitely breathed a sigh of relief on that. I hear an alarm going off, and I do see the preacher's car pulling up into the lot. So that is that's just wonderful. And maybe it's back to back to the Sunday services, which I think would be great. But I am going to go see if I can help him. It looks like he has a lot of luggage. Interesting. I'm going to go see if I can help the preacher out. And I think we covered a lot of ground today, and I really think we made a lot of progress. So I hope this is something everyone takes with them through the rest of the week. And of course, we will always see you next week around Wednesday or Thursday. So on that note, I'm always here.